Hello once again everyone, welcome back for another video. This time we are going to complete the trifecta. It's time for my review of Fire Emblem Fates Revelation. The DLC, the expansion, whatever you want to call it. But what I want to call it, right off the bat, is the proper Fire Emblem game. I'm going to be brutally blunt, like always. Fire Emblem Fates Birthright and Conquest, in my opinion, didn't even need to be made. In comparison from those, which I felt were subpar, Fire Emblem Fates Revelation pretty much delivered in most aspects. So it seems Nintendo decided, or Intelligent Systems, my mistake, decided let's do two not so good Fire Emblem games as the, quote, main games, and then release a DLC, which should have been the main game to begin with. That's my side of it. That's how I stand on the three versions of Fire Emblem Fates. Now, as for the actual game, it starts off pretty good. You know, it makes it a little bit hard at the beginning because you don't really have any allies. It does make you raise the question, why the fuck does everyone get so butthurt when you're just like, sorry, I don't want to fight. And I know it's like, you know, each side is a big army, like they're both known for their big armies and military and dominance. And then they're just like, what? You don't want to fight? Well, then you're dead to us. It's like, what the fuck? That would never happen in real life. Can you imagine? It's like, you know, say, I don't know, say two gangs in a city are going at it, and they ask some new guy who just joined their gang or something recently, and he's like, oh, I don't want to fight, and they're going to be like, you traitor. It's like, what? Calm down. You can't be mad if someone chooses to take the high road and not to kill violently kill pointlessly, senselessly. So that was one thing that I thought was a little weird, but I guess it happens with all three versions. One thing I did like, though, was the story was actually pretty decent, and it differs a fair bit in comparison to Birthright and Conquest. Characters, it started off making me happy because they were giving me the characters where I was like, yes, good. Like right off the bat, you get Gunter back in comparison to a different way you do in Conquest. And I was like, yes, Gunter, my man, there you are, coming onto the team early. That's good shit. And, you know, I'd get a few good characters along the way. I was like, yes, there's Kaze on my team. Hooray. And then it started to piss me off, because then it started to give me so many characters. I'm just like, no, I don't fucking like you. I don't want you on my team. You can just sit in the closet and never be used. But I can't really remember who all I didn't use fully. I didn't use Hinoka, because I just don't care. Rinka, I don't care about her. Flora, later on, didn't use her. There was a bunch. Silas and all those. I did end up using, what's the person's name? Saizo. Even though I don't like him, I ended up ranking him up to level 20 anyway, max level, and used him on near the end of the game, or the second half onwards, pretty much. And I also took a lot longer playing through this version than the other ones, because I actually wanted to experiment with the parenting, you know, and having the kids and seeing different ones. I didn't actually do too many now that I think about it, but I married Corin this time, in the first time in Conquest, to Camilla, in Birthright to Felicia, and in Revelation now I married him to Azura, which, little weird, I don't even know how you'd explain it, because you and her are both, you find out, and again, spoilers, I should have said this earlier on, but there will be spoilers. You and her are both Valite, or whatever, royalty, like the third kingdom. There's Hoshido, Nor, and Vala, or whatever. So I'm not sure if that means technically you and her are cousins or something like that. I can't really remember how they explained it, so that was kind of weird. But either way, so they had two kids. There's Kana again, which, whatever, Kana's fine. And then there's a guy named Shigir. He looks pretty cool. He's a guy, he sings like his mother, like Azura. He doesn't actually sing on the battlefield, it's just part of his character. And he was pretty cool. I ended up getting him ranked up all the way, and he's pretty good with his stats and his skills. I made him a Falcon Knight or a Kinshi night or something like that. I forget what, something like that. I married Mozu with, was it Kaze? I can't remember now. Yes. And their kid was Midori, who's a bow and arrow person. I love the bow and arrow people in this game. Although, I will say before I forget, out of all three of my playthroughs, anytime I did lose someone, it was always from a fucking bow user. Like, seriously, bows need a nerf for the enemies, because they are fucking insanely strong. But, back on point, Midori is a bow user, and her character's all about, healing and everything, and making potions to heal troops and all that shit. I married Saizo with Felicia, and their kid was Asugi, who was a ninja who loved candy above all else. Like, he would do everything he can to get candy. He didn't care about being paid in money. He would rather be paid in candy, and he had such a sweet tooth. So he was all right, better than Saizo anyway. And I think that was about it for the kids. And I also ended up partnering up with S rank Midori and Asuga, so Kaze and Mozu's kid with Kaze and Felicia's kid, or Saizo and Felicia's kid, I should say. So, but you can't have a kid again, so I had to test that out. But anyway, back to the point. The story progressed well. There wasn't, I can't remember too many missions that were brutally difficult. But, I mean, after playing through Birthright and Conquest, I already knew how to play the game. I already knew how to strategize it properly. You know. And I will say, though, near the end, I started to get a bit cranky. And a bit, unhappy. In the sense that, again, spoilers, and again from this picture, this is right before this picture, which is Anakos, the boss of the game in Revelation. You find out, like, a little earlier on, probably about, halfway to 90% of the way, you're all just like, there's a traitor among us, but we don't know who. And it turns out to be Gunter. And when I found that out, like, I actually caught on before he revealed it, and I was like, no, it's not going to be Gunter. And then it was, and I was just like, son of a bitch, why Gunter? Gunter's the man, he's one of my favorites, And turns out, though, he was just being possessed. So I was like, oh, okay, we can save him, and then you do save him, and he comes back to his senses. So that was good. A crisis averted there. And then the final bit of the game, I didn't really like it, to be honest. The anime cutscene-ish, like in the picture here, was fine and all, but the dragon, Anakos, or Anankos, or however you pronounce it, wasn't as good as Grima from Awakening. It just wasn't. When I first saw the dragon, which it's weird because, like, it has its eyes on a ball in its mouth, so it's like your head is in your mouth moving freely. That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't work. It looks okay, I guess, but it doesn't really work. Like, if you open your mouth, oh, my face fell out, and, you're screwed. But as for Anakos himself, I found myself saying, like, huh, this doesn't look like a Fire Emblem dragon. It looks like, honestly, I thought to myself, this looks like a Kirby boss, and I don't know why. I just did. I thought, it reminded me of the fight with the giant bee thing in, was it Triple Deluxe? Or something like that? But I was just like, this doesn't look like Grima. This doesn't look like a Fire Emblem dragon. It looks okay, but now that I think about it, it looks more like it belongs in Kid Icarus Uprising, to be brutally honest. So, disappointed with the final boss. And then as for deaths, I've only had 2 technically, but, well, it was a funny story. Because I was going to really bash this game, this version, because of my 2 deaths. It was on the final stretch, like there's the final mission, like you save, you do the last mission, when you beat it, then there's the end game mission where you can't save again. When you're fighting the boss. On the last mission, not endgame, but the last mission, I lost Camilla, which pissed me off. Because I was like, no! I was 1 turn away from finishing off this level. And again, it was because of a goddamn fucking bow user. So I lost Camilla, and that pissed me off, but I had wasted, like, 45 minutes or longer on this mission, taking my time. And I was like, ah, fuck you, Camilla, you died. I'm not redoing this mission. I don't want to waste 45 minutes of time going over again. So I was like, whatever, you're dead. And then I beat that mission. Then I did the end game with Anonkos, whatever. And the way you fight him is they teased you and made it look like, oh, it's just the boss. There's no other enemies. And then as soon as you hit start, there's enemies that spawn on both sides, and you have to kind of split your team into two halves. You're floating in space, and you have to go. He's holding on with both hands, so you have to go send one group of people to smack one of his hands off and smack the other hand off. And then there's a little scene, and then he's just his head right in front of the front, and then you have to bring everyone back to the middle and blast his face. And then you're like, yes, I won. And then after that, then he's just a floating eyeball, the inside of his mouth there, that's all that's left. And then you have to take that out, so it's like a triple fight. So I ended up losing Shigir, and that pissed me off, because it was on the second phase, on the phase where I had to hit his face, not the ball, but like his face that was in the middle. And I was like, God damn it, I lost 2 people. But luckily, I completely had forgotten, because after I kept going, and I just was like, whatever, I just want to finish this up. So I beat it, and then, I realized after the credits and everything, it doesn't save after that. It still has the last save from before you actually did the mission. So I was like, aha, loophole! Camilla and Shigir are still alive! So I can't, bash that too much there. But, and again, it was a bow and arrow user that killed Shigir as well. It was like someone, because the flying types are really susceptible to bows, and so it was like Shigir had like 37 health or something, and the guy he did like 58 damage with one hit. It was ridiculous. So overall, like, I think I gave Birthright 5.5 out of 10 or something like that, and I gave Conquest a 6.5 out of 10. So Revelations was the best. Let's get that right. But another thing I just remember that I want to say before I forget is this game is called Fire Emblem Fates. Yet where the fuck was the Fire Emblem? Now I get it. The way they did it was throughout the game, your sacred Yato, quote, becomes the sacred flames, or burning in the sacred flames or whatever, and it becomes the, quote, Fire Emblem, even though it's not actually called that. They say that in the game, but if you look at its actual weapon title, it's called like the Omega Yato or something. But the Fire Emblem itself isn't in the game. And I was like, what? Why? And yeah, you could argue, well, in this game it's different, it's a sword. I don't accept that. I don't. The Fire Emblem should be like it was in Awakening. It should actually be a sacred treasure, not just, I don't know if it actually changes from game to game, because I haven't actually played that many Fire Emblem games. I played like 3, but, well, if you count the 3 Fire Emblem Fates, and then Awakening, and then there was one other one I played back on, like, Game Boy or something, I don't remember. But anyway, so that was something I had a problem with. But in the end, what score will I give Fire Emblem Fates Revelation? I'm going to give it, better than Birthright, of course, better than Conquest, I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10. A solid 8 out of 10. There were some problems, here and there. The final boss was just bleh to me. I didn't like it. I love the Grima fight in Awakening, where you're on his back, making your way up to the top of his head, where your Shadow Self, Shadow Robin, whatever you want to call it, waits. That was fucking amazing. But in this one, it's just like, oh, there's a super almighty dragon. Just go smack him on the hand, and then bonk him on the head, and then attack an eyeball. It's like, come on. That's a step in the back, or step backwards for me. But I didn't like the Gunter part. I did like how Lilith didn't die this time. She dies in Birthright and fucking Conquest, not this time, so I was like, hooray. But yeah, I don't think I got much more to say. 8.0 out of 10 for Fire Emblem Fates Revelation. I think that should have been the Fire Emblem game on its own. There shouldn't have even been a Birthright and Conquest. But that's just me. So I guess until the next video, we'll see you then.